What does world-class real estate look like to you?
Is a commitment to excellence when it comes to service.
It's do what you say you're going to do.
Estate agency that is delivering a really high level of service, customer service, a really high level of property marketing.
Being an all-rounder with regard to digital marketing as well.
Great agency belongs to personal agents operating in an entrepreneurial way, using tech, but keeping that personal touch and delivering first-class services for their clients.
Everything from service to marketing.
It's about bringing the absolute most that you can bring in any moment.
Really knowing who you are, knowing your lane, being really clear on your proposition and what makes you stand out, and then delivering that message relentlessly.
This episode is sponsored by Iceberg Digital.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the World Class Real Estate Podcast. My name is Mark and I'm joined by a very rejuvenated looking Ian Macbeth after a holiday with the kids. How are you, mate?
Still got a little bit of a tan on. Yeah, still got a little bit of a tan. No, I had a lovely break. We all need it, don't we? We all need a break at some point. And I'll try and work to that 4 and 1 that I might have mentioned before. Have 4 things that you're looking forward to throughout the year, once a quarter, something like that. And then the one thing that you want the year to be labelled as. So the one big thing. But yeah, going to Greece for the first time for me. First time I've been to Greece with the family. Took the mother-in-law as well. Very brave. But 3 parents to 2 kids. You know,
ratio.
Yeah, helps it. Puts the balance on your side. A couple of sleepovers in grandma's room, which was nice for me and my wife. So yeah, we had a really nice time. Really nice time. How are you guys getting on? How are you finding
good.
things?
I am finding the market a little bit more challenging at the moment than it has been probably for a little while.
Yeah,
you said I put a message on a masterminding group. Had a particularly bad week whilst you were away, but you know, we're going to talk about it a little bit today. That's the roller coaster of real estate, right? We have to get used to the ups and the downs, and it's probably taken me a little while. But even though that week was pretty savage, I think I recovered well. And actually, as I said to you right when we started recording today, that actually I think it's probably the kick up the backside that I needed. And I think this is now going to be a market where the good agents show themselves, and I think clients are going to start appreciating that as well. So yeah, a few challenges, but such is life.
Yeah, I think mentally you kind of dealt with it. You had one of those before, didn't you? Inside the last year, you had one of those weeks where you had a big whopper blowout. But I think mentally, it's as we're going to talk about on today's podcast. Really, with a self-employed agent, you know, that's doing really well, is control the controllables. You know, it's all we can do as estate agents, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you try. I think it's a bit of an experience thing, isn't it? Or you know, maybe an age thing. And you know, being a parent, we've talked about quite a lot how that changes your opinion on life, and also your performance sometimes in agency. But you've just got to accept some things you just can't control. So what's the point thinking about them? And with social media and the news the way it is nowadays, that's becoming increasingly difficult. But you know, if you focus on what you do, you'll get better results. If you focus on things outside of your control, then you are wasting your time. And a lot of that, you know, we have certain people in the business who will talk about competitors and stuff like that. And I'm like, look, let's focus on us, because whatever they're doing doesn't matter. So yeah, control the controllables is something that we're going to talk about with the guest today. And as you said, just a bit of a viewpoint into self-employed agency, but high-performing self-employed agency, must be said.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Alex coming on, and when I invited Alex on, I said, "Can you leave me a voice note with how to pronounce your surname, Alex, so it's not embarrassing?" But yeah, it's Alex who's changed his brand to Beacons, is his estate agency brand. It's powered, I think they say it's powered by EXP, so he's got his own division. I think it is how they kind of do it. But he's been in self-employed agency since 2023, built a really successful business, and he's been ramping his fees up, which he'll talk about on the episode as well. I'm gonna say it's Alex Pelosi-Buchanan, I think I'd love to just play the voice note actually, but it's not very for a voice.
I'm glad it was you rather than me, because I meant to last time and I didn't.
That's the intro as good as we're going to get it. So let's get Alex on.
Let's do it. If you're an estate agent listening to this, I want you to think about something for a second. Are you and your team busy, or are you actually being productive? Because most agencies right now are drowning in admin, juggling disconnected systems, chasing portal leads, and wondering why profits aren't where they really should be. Iceberg Digital have taken a completely different approach. Instead of selling another CRM, they've built what they call an AI operating system for estate agents, combining prospecting, marketing, CRM, compliance, even websites into one connected ecosystem. The goal? To increase your revenue per employee, because the agencies that win over the next few years won't be the ones working harder, they'll be the ones working smarter, with systems that actually do the heavy lifting. If you want to future-proof your agency instead of just surviving the next market shift, go and book a demo at icebergdigital.co.uk. That's icebergdigital.co.uk.
Alex, welcome to the show. How are we doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Really excited to be here.
Looks sunny where you are. It's sunny where I am. It's not where Mark is.
I'm just next to a really bright window, unfortunately. So it's a little bit cloudy out there, but it's not raining, so that's always a plus.
Yeah, sunny season's coming around for photos. I think anyway. I'm hoping.
I was going to say, I think I've done so many videos in the rain, and so many we've had to go back and reshoot the outside. So we've had to make sure, same outfit going back to, because we've just not been able to do anything outside.
Yeah, tough.
So especially when you're doing premium marketing, the clients are paying towards it. You want to make sure they've got a good, they've got a nice product at the end of it. So, but yeah, we're owed some good weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, roll on some sunshine. Not that we get a great deal in the northwest, but Alex, let's start as we always do, and then we'll dive into some of that premium stuff. I think, no doubt, shortly. But what does world class real estate look like to you?
World class real estate to me looks consistent. And I don't say this necessarily from myself, because I think there are times where I need to be more consistent. But I think some of the best agents that I follow and look up to in the UK and all across the world are the ones that are consistent. And that's not just, I think there's a lot around when people say consistency. I think a lot of that falls around social media at the moment. I wish I was more consistent on social media, but I think consistency, it falls into so many different categories. It's your energy, it's how you prospect, it's your discipline, all these things. It's how you show up every day. So I think there are agents out there that don't do social media, that are extremely consistent within their communities and still listing machines. So I think consistency is really important, and it's something that I've had to try and train myself to be better at. But for me, that's the one thing I know I aspire to be more, is consistent. But weirdly enough, people say to me, "Oh, you're so consistent with what you do." So from the outside, it seems that I'm doing something right, but I guess it's always just having that internal metric that you always kind of want to be bettering yourself. So for me, I think consistency is probably that key ingredient to a lot of world-class real estate agents.
Yeah, I love the self-awareness that I'm good at this, but actually I want to aspire to be better. So can you talk us through where you think you are consistent, and that is when people say to you, "Oh, you're really consistent at this," and where are you striving to be more consistent? What parts of the business do you, if you were looking really critically internally, right, I need to be more consistent in this, what would it be? The good and the bad, please.
I think for me, so consistency with me has always been the marketing that I produce for my clients. So from day one, when I went self-employed, I decided that all homes deserved good marketing. Mm-hmm. So it didn't matter whether it was a one-bedroom flat or I was getting invited out to a 16-acre farm. It's that every property would have a video. Every property would have the same launch strategy, coming soon posts. And then it would have reels, it would have content created at it. So with that stuff filled in my phone. So I've always tried to be as consistent as I can, so no client feels that they're getting anything different. Don't get me wrong, there are properties that, especially if you're listing a £1.5 million house, then yeah, sure, there's perhaps a slightly different angle with the content you're going to go than with a 1-bedroom flat. I mean, there's only so much you can film in a 1-bedroom flat. With a house that's got 6 bedrooms, 6 acres, and swimming pools and stuff like that, you're going to have a lot more to talk about. But it's still people, and that's kind of what I base my business on. And that's what gets me my instructions. Is people always say, "We just love your marketing. We feel you've got the best marketing." So that's the one thing I guess I've always tried to make sure is consistent. And don't worry, there's been times where I myself have thought, should I maybe dial back doing the video on all properties, because it's it's costing a lot of money and one thing the other, and of course when a property doesn't sell, you think we spent quite a bit of money on that, but at the same time you think, well, no, that's why people want, it's one of the reasons people choose me. And I think that the marketing I see as my attraction. That's my consistent attractor for clients, whether that's on social media. But what I would say on social media is that I have at times been inconsistent with social media. Like, for instance, I've just been away now for a break. So I hadn't really scheduled anything. So I was posting little bits as and when, but it was more sporadic. So for me, it was very much a case that I probably need to be better and more consistent with the content that I put out there, and it comes in waves. So I think, but for me, I think that especially when you're self-employed, there's a lot of hats that you've got to juggle. And in the early days, I find it's very easy to be consistent because you've got all the time in the world. If you've got only a few clients to deal with, a few sales to deal with, you can do all these things. But of course, as you start to build that pipeline, you start to build momentum, then of course certain things tend to fall away. When I first started, I was doing a bit of everything. I call it my kind of shotgun approach. Whereas I was doing flyering, I was doing letters, I was doing social media, I was doing community works, sponsoring, I was doing basically everything and anything. But then as I got busier, I kind of figured out that, well, look, most of my business seems to be floating through social media, so I'm going to kind of really try and focus on that. But there was a period where I noticed that I'd stopped posting on social media as much as I should have been. I went through a bit of a period of burnout, one from the other, and I just kind of really lost my mojo a little bit. But you suddenly noticed the drop in leads coming in because of course you're not posting, so people weren't seeing as much as what they were before. So I think that for me, that's probably where I said probably not been as consistent, and it's something that I'm working on again now. But I think that consistency, it's not just in terms of marketing, but I think in terms of energy. And I think I think that, to become a world-class agent, and a lot of the world-class agents out there, they haven't become world-class in just a split moment. I think it's from the moments probably where they've turned up when you don't feel like it. And that's what I've kind of remind myself, even in those days that you don't want to show up, you have to. And so every day I make that kind of effort to say, I don't want to let a bad day become, a bad week, become a bad month, become a bad year. I think a quote that Tom Panos said, which has stuck with me, and that's kind of helped me think, okay, well, look, just because you had a bad day yesterday doesn't mean that you've got to give up today. You've got to push on. So, being consistent with your kind of time and energy, I think that as well is something that I have suffered with, but now I'm working on. So, and it's, and you just notice a big difference straight away.
Is a good topic, Alex, actually, because I think in a state agency, I've found it intensifies in self-employed agency that when you kind of go from normal agency and you become self-employed, or brokerage, or you start your own business, whichever way you look at it, fully start your own company, or you choose a brokerage, you go with that shotgun mentality that you spoke about. I call it just create the chaos, with the agents when they join, just make chaos. That's basically all you're trying to do for year one. And everyone goes with this kind of, right, I've got a little bit of time on my hands here, and I'm just going to do everything as chaotic as I possibly can to generate leads, to generate business. But what a lot of people don't plan for in self-employed, and it kind of, I find with a lot of agents, it just sort of slaps you in the face without you realizing, is, okay, I've done that. I've created this chaos and I've done it really well, and I've been really proactive and I've had lots of time, and now I'm really busy, and I hadn't got a plan when I get to be really busy of how to control it. And you mentioned burnout. I've seen it with people where they get kind of unorganized and inconsistent because they're busy, because there's so many inquiries coming in, because they've done so well at creating positive chaos in year one. So it sounds to me like you've gone for a little bit that journey yourself, and I've seen it with a few of our agents as well, where you kind of have to work out a bit of a pivot, almost like step away from the business, look on it and go, right, how am I gonna sort this out? Because I look at it, and if you visualize two triangles, you got one triangle the right way up, and that's at the start is your time. The bottom of the triangle at the start, you got loads of time, and then it just less and less time as the time goes on. On the other side, you got the triangle that's upside down, which is business. And at the start, you've got no business at the point, and then you get more and more business. And you have to balance those triangles effectively, or it all kind of falls down, or you burn out. So talk me through that moment where you've got obviously good self-awareness, which is great, but that moment where you realized, okay, I'm probably going to need to do something a little bit differently here.
Yeah, I think it was probably January 25. So I launched in 2023, September. And I had a really good start with listings. I think in the first 3 months, I've got like kind of 10 really nice listings. And just for context, so I don't kind of work with mass market. Like I said, even though I deal with across the market, I always start with the pretense I didn't want to have lots of properties. So I kind of was working with select ones, charging what I feel are, decent fees, certainly more than all of my competitors were charging, because I was offering something very different. But what I found was that suddenly I had a very slow start sale wise. I didn't actually agree my first sale until December. So I had a bit of a hairy 3 months where I was thinking, I haven't even agreed to sell yet. It was really tough. Obviously, it was when the rates were high. But then January it snowballed, and I think by the May I'd built up like 120 grand pipeline. So it was like, wow, and all of a sudden then it really felt like that momentum and the snowballing, and suddenly everybody wanted me to be acting for them and selling their house. And I was like, right, I can keep doing this forever. I can keep working 7 days a week. Because when I started, I had the whole, I'm going to work 7 days a week. I'm going to work from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. And to be fair, I was probably working outside of those hours as well. But, I kind of really felt that I can do this forever. And people were obviously very much like, wow, you're messaging us at this time of night, and you're on the ball every Sunday, you're out doing viewings, etc. And it kind of built up to the point where I think I had something like 30 odd properties under offer, and I had like something like 25 on the market, and it was like, and it felt like I could manage it. And then it was very much, I think I can remember I'd gone away to EXPCon in 2024. And I was out there, and I didn't have any assistance, and I was trying to be out there for a few days, and I'd gone away with the wife for her first proper holiday as well. She came with me, and it was just chaos, because I just have no way of managing that. Even though I'd set expectations, as we know in this industry, things happen on a daily basis. Sales fall through, people change their mind, problems present themselves. And no matter how much I tried, bless my mum was helping out back home. She said she was willing to help out, but it kind of made me realize that kind of the animal that I built just wasn't sustainable. And I just got back, and it was that kind of Christmas and heading into early 25 that I really started to feel that burnout. So I got a VA, but the first VA didn't work out, and I got another one, and she's great. So that's kind of helped kind of relieve that bit, because of course I wasn't being consistent in my service. I just wasn't. I just felt that clients weren't getting the service that I set out to the whole point of me starting the business is I wanted to be better. I wanted to give clients a better experience, and I thought I can't give my energy to this amount of people. So now where I am, I've actually gone back to a point where I have at the moment, which is kind of like that kind of 15 to 20, I think is manageable. But I have also got support now. So I've got my VA who works kind of a few hours a day. But I've just taken on a young kind of protege, sure as call him. He's not been in agency before, but he's doing a few hours here and there for me. He's keen to get into agency, and that's helped. So just starting to get him out with some viewings. So I think, for me, it was kind of learning that, you can't go full steam ahead forever. And maybe some people can. There are some agents out there that I just think, wow, how do they have their energy? But I think everybody's different. And I think I've kind of learned that, that's not me. I'd rather work with less, charge a bit more, give what I feel is an amazing, level of service and marketing to my clients. I don't want to be like every other agent. So I guess I've just kind of learned along the way that's kind of, and now I feel I'm in a much better place, kind of working with less.
I think that's the way that self-employed agency works best is in exactly how you've just described it there. Talk me through the VA, because a lot of people struggle, especially in the self-employed game. They see it as a cost and they don't want to add any cost because they've got such a profitable business in self-employed agency. It's crazy profitable when you look at it on a P&L sheet. But talk me through the VA. What type of things did you feel you were ready to start delegating? And how did that process start? And what kind of tasks does she take off you for you to then be able to ultimately spend more time with clients?
Yeah, so I think one of the moments for the VA was while we were out in Miami, and just prior to that as well. I've been very fortunate to end up in a private mastermind with Glenn Sanford, founder of EXP, and Leo Behera. And you think, wow, I'm in this room full of like these top performing agents in America. This is crazy, but so we're in there. But one of the things they talked about was your kind of the dollar productive time, and they were looking at, okay, well, let's look at let's work out your hourly rate. So worked out how many hours you do a year, and obviously come down and you work out, okay, well, each hour in my business is worth, whether it's $100, $200, $300 an hour. So then they're looking at, okay, so of each hour in your day, that's money. You've got to look, that's what every hour is worth to you. So for how much time do you spend each day doing things that you don't enjoy doing? And then it was almost listing like a traffic light system. So it was like all the red things are the things you hate doing. You just, that you don't like doing them, or you just find them really draining. So for me, that was like sending contracts out, sending all the AML checks, sending sale memos, just basically a lot of admin. You're uploading photos, downloading the photos, uploading the photos.
Every salesman's nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. All the stuff that, let's face it, when people go self-employed, they leave a role where they're like, right, I just want to go and list and sell houses and make loads of money. That's the way we see it, is that we're going to be able to just go out, do a load of viewings, do a load of valuations, and we're going to make lots of money. But the reality of suddenly being a business owner hits you, and you've got all these other things that you have to do. And it's like, wow, I didn't, you forget that, especially when, like me, I've been in managerial roles, you forget actually when you had admin teams, how much they did for you, because you get an instruction, it'd be like bang off to the admin team, and that's it. And then other people would look after everything. But, when you've got people, ringing up and they want to go through the contract, or they want to go through things, or they want to go through the order of the photos, and you're like, oh my God, and all this kind of stuff, you think, there's definitely going to be someone else that can do those things. But for me, so said obviously in this mastermind, and when we were looking at the tasks that you would like to do, so the green tasks are the green tasks are the things that you have to do. So that is attending the valuation. That the green tasks are, if it's for you, it's doing the viewings, it's doing the social media content. They're the things that I have to do, I have to protect. These are the things I should be doing. And then the amber things are things you'd like to be doing more of, that you kind of wish you were doing more of. So they could be tasks that you're thinking, well, I at the moment they're things I'm not doing, but I'd like to move them to green. So I'd like these things. So you might think, I would like to spend more time attending local community events, but I just don't have the time. But you think, well, if I can get rid of some of those red tasks, and that frees me up with so much more, because I think some of those amber tasks could become, so it's going through things like that, and suddenly like these little pennies start to drop, and I was just sat there looking at my hourly rate and thinking, well, do you know what? I said, yeah, I can certainly see there's lots there. So I think getting a VA, I had a sales progressor for a while as well. I haven't now, but I did have a sales progressor for a while, because when my pipeline was so much bigger, I just felt I needed help with that. But now it's smaller. I've taken the sales progression back. Even though that's time consuming, I just found for me personally, everyone's different, but I just found for me personally, I've sold that kind of one-to-one service, that I'm very central at everything. I just felt like sometimes handing the sales progression over, especially with the way sales have been going, is just something I just needed to protect more myself. So I kind of looked at it now and think, no, that needs to be something that I need to be dealing with, because I want to make sure these deals are getting across the line. So but it's always, I guess, auditing and figuring out, because situations change. You don't really know until you've tried something, but it's constantly kind of thinking, okay, well, what should I be doing? What shouldn't I be doing? And what do I need to be doing more of? So that's something now that I'm always just trying to be very consciously aware of, if I suddenly start to be doing tasks I shouldn't be doing, which is why I've got George, who's just joined me. So even though I've got Annika as a VA, and she does all the admin based tasks and all the things I just discussed there, and dealing with inquiries and kind of helping alleviate some of that as well. Like right now, while we're on this call, should be getting geared up for the morning to kind of go through some of the feedback and things like that. But I've also got a physical presence now. So I've got just taken on George, and he's helping out with viewings, because again, it got to a point where I thought, I don't want to be turning viewings away, but there's only so many viewings you can fit in, and I don't want to be working every Sunday now, and I don't want to be, working every Saturday. There are times that, yes, I do want to start having some time off. So I thought, right, I need to have a physical presence now. That, and bless my mum, she was great, and she helped me out with viewings, but she's basically retired. So I was conscious it wasn't something she wanted to be doing all the time. But George is keen, and I thought, well, look, if I can get someone who can just help me on the weekends, then of course that's just going to help free me up a little bit, or allow me to spend time and fit in some other viewings, because we've all been there. You book your day up full of viewings, and then you get that call on a Friday from a cash buyer who's really keen to see it, and they're only in the area. And I know there's an element of you think, so if they were that keen, why'd they book before? But you always just think, I just can't fit him in. I've got no way to fit him in. So I thought, well, if I've got some help on the Saturday, I can turn around and say, George, right, you do these ones. I'm going to go meet with this guy at this property, because that's a bigger property that perhaps George doesn't know. So it's just trying to. But what I don't want to do is, I think there's the delicate balance between being a self-employed agent and suddenly becoming a business owner, where you've got a massive team of around you, and I don't think that's probably the angle I'm going to go. I'd like to have a few maybe partner agents, under my kind of Beacons brand, but they would be self-employed agents. They would be off doing their own thing in their own patches. It wouldn't necessarily be a team of having loads of negotiators and sales progressors and all of that. I just don't think that's for me. And I know others, they've done that, but I think that's the whole reason I stopped. I didn't want to be a manager of people. I want to just get in the living room and help people move house, and that's why I did it. So I think, it's that kind of constant audit. And as soon as I started to feel myself slipping back, I thought, no, I don't want to hire all these people. I'd rather much be in a situation where I've just got a nice balance of work and life.
And you talked a couple of times about service, offering a different level of service at the premium end of the market. Can you talk us through your opinion on what that service looks like, and some of the differences, subtle or not? I know consistency forms a big part of it, but what for the client does your service look like in terms of different to competitors, if you're happy to share some of the trade secrets?
Yeah, of course. Well, I think that, it's a little bit different. When I started my business back in 23, one of the things I did, I did an audit of my competitors, because I'd been working in a different area for 5 years. So I'd been an agent in Abergavenny. I'd gone and worked in another area for almost 5 years. So when I came back to Abergavenny, I kind of treated it as I was the new kid on the block. I didn't want people to think that, oh, Alex is back. And to be fair, that's not how people thought. Since I'd left, I'd put on weight, grown a beard, and double barreled my name. So, I didn't want to be under the assumption that people would remember me. Lots of people did, and lots of people, came to use me for that reason. But I thought I've got to be that disruptor, a bit like you said, creating that chaos. I suddenly overnight, there was, I had stuff all over social media. I was everywhere, out of nowhere. And that was the way I wanted it. Suddenly I'd bloody, Hello Abergavenny boards going up in all my friends' families' houses, which I know is not the right or wrong thing to do, but anyway, but still, it created curiosity. It created, on social media, I was doing competitions, like and shares. I sponsored a few little local events. I was, so in the early days when it started, but the big thing for me was looking at the marketing, and what I looked at was that none of the agents were doing video, or they were doing video, but they were like kind of just walkthroughs, filmed on a gimbal, bit of cheesy music, the kind of ones that everybody started doing during COVID, basically. But there was a lot of agents that didn't do any video at all. So I knew video was always, and I'd already been doing like hosted video tours at my previous employer. So it was kind of like, for me, that was like, it was natural just to start doing it. So for me, it was like, right, I'm just going to do marketing better than everyone. So it was like professional photography, the kind of hosted tours with me in it, and not just me doing an intro, me in the house, me talking about the lifestyle of the house, me walking along the canal, or walking past a local coffee shop, talking about the great restaurants that are in the area and all this kind of stuff. And I think that for me was that kind of the big lead in, and that's kind of still now the thing that I do leave is very heavily on that kind of lifestyle focused marketing. But I've always aimed to better it. So, for instance, there's a couple of agents in my town now that do professional marketing. They've started, as soon as I started doing it, they started saying, oh, we do professional photography and we don't charge for it. And we do professional videography and we don't charge for it. We include it in our package and all this kind of stuff. And, which is great. It's always about raising the standard, because what it does, it pushes me. So I've kind of like taken things to the next level. So I thought, right, some other agents are doing some more premium video tours. And all it took was one person to say, oh, we've had so and so out, and they do the same marketing as yours. And I was like, would you say it's the same? I said, I don't think that the agent's in any of the content from what I've seen. I said, yes, it's professional video, but is the agent in it? Oh no, but it's kind of the same. I thought, right, that's it. So I literally run my videographer and said, we're doing a Netflix style intro trailer for a property. So we did a literally Netflix style documentary interview for one of my new launches, and that was the whole point. I thought, right, this is now the standard, and it's always kind of striving to put something that's different, because like I said, that's the thing that the reason people I like to think come to me is they always say your marketing is different to everybody else.
I saw that one, Alex. Actually, I saw that Netflix one. How did that go down? What was the client's take on it? Because
great. Client was just like, wow, that's brilliant.
It's hard, isn't it? A little bit, because obviously the job is to promote the house, but from an agent's point of view, we do a lot of these presenter agent-led videos for us, for our business. They, like you said at the beginning, they win a lot of business by using the personal brand ourselves. A Netflix style documentary has got an element of, it feels a little bit self-absorbed, because you're the star of the show, not the house, in a Netflix style sort of documentary. But obviously you are talking a story around the house. So I was just interested to see what the client felt about it.
The client loved it. I've had other people. I had a message, and this is, I'm not just saying this for it, but I had a message from someone following doing that video who it hasn't come to market yet, but they've got a house that's probably worth over 2 million that messaged me to say, hi Alex, just as it, and they'd obviously seen other content. They say, we've seen your videos, but just seen the one you've just done for Lucia Court. You'd be really interested in having a chat to you about potentially marketing ours later down the line. So I think that, I know that there is a big thing about, it's becoming more about the agent. And don't get me wrong, there are lots of video tours I do see out there that I do think that, come on, it's more about the agent, and like the house is out of focus and the agent's just walking around talking at the camera, and the house is out of focus, and, it's all about them. But I think it's about having a mixture. So if you watch the main video of Lucia Court, that is more, yes, you've still got the borrowed Lotus. That was the one thing actually. A load of people said to me again, oh, you're doing well for yourself. I like the Lotus. I said, it's not mine, just borrowed it for an hour. But for me, it's about selling the lifestyle. And you think, okay, who would own a house like this? What kind of people? It's the kind of people that are going to turn up in a nice car. If they're buying a 1.3 million pound house in my area, that's kind of a higher price point, is that they're probably getting nice things. And to be fair, most people that turn up to view it are turning up in Range Rovers. And so you think, okay, well, that's the kind of people that are going to be on. Yes, other people might look at it and think, oh, look at him in his car getting out. He's making it about him. But actually, no, the person I'm trying to attract to that house is probably going to look at it and go, I can imagine myself doing that. And that's the whole point of it. And I think the Netflix documentary, although I'm front and center, like you said, I'm talking about the house. I'm not there sat there going, oh, I'm Alex, so I'm at my latest listing, look how great I am, blah blah. I think there's some content I see that is like that, but every single line I said of that is about the house. It's the drama, and it's just about, like I said, it's just creating that bit of impact. And I think sometimes, especially with some of the larger homes, when I think that when I last looked at it, something like only 10% of all the homes that are currently advertised in my area over 1 million are under offer. And you think, okay, well, that means that, we've really got to try and attract people. We've got to make this house stand out, because if someone's got £1.5 million to spend in my area, they've got a lot of choice. So
I thought it was great. I thought it was great, mate. And I think it's a bit of a British thing to kind of feel the bit awkward about those types of things, and putting ourselves out there, and the phrase personal brand. But I just think we've moved away from that British mentality in the real world now. It's everything that we do is on a global scale, and it's not like we're necessarily selling to international buyers. Sometimes we are. It's more the fact that it's been normalized globally to market in that way because everything is so accessible everywhere. You know, a lot of the kids at primary school where my kids go to school, I hear them I heard them on the playground yesterday, you know, first day back for us at school, and the amount of YouTube Americanisms that I'm hearing in the playground now, because that's just we live in a global world now. We don't live hyperlocal anymore.
100%. I think that's where, you know, we got to think that I'm not doing this for today's buyers and say this is for the future. I'm doing this now because in another 5 years it's going to shift again. It's shifting now, especially with AI and all the other stuff that's happening in the world. It's, you know, the world is shifting so quickly now in terms of what people expect, and very quickly. I think there's going to be a lot of agents out there. I still see some marketing now, and I just think that how can people accept that that's the way her home should be marketed? And there's always going to be people that won't see value in it, but more and more people now are it's becoming less about people asking, you know, will my house be on Rightmove? People are saying, will my house be on social media? You know, that's becoming more and more of a thing. And I think the more agents that start to do it, and you know, and now especially there's so many agents now doing video, and there's so many agents starting to do social media, which is great because it's kind of moving us forward. Because I've always felt we're very behind the Americans and the Australians. You know, we talk about now agents, we got this new thing, it's called Instagram Reels. And you think, no, there's been agents out there that have been doing videos on Instagram and Facebook since, you know, 2015, 16. You know, it's not a new thing, but it feels a lot newer from the consumer's point of view. It's becoming a point now where they're thinking, well, that becomes the norm. And you know, it's been great to kind of, I guess, set the trend a little bit in my local market, and the coming soon posts. And yeah, typically 2 agents basically copied the template. They probably won't watch this, but you know, they copied the template almost word for word and just tweaked it a little bit and did coming soon, you know, and stop putting the prices on them and all this kind of stuff, which, you know, for me, like, so I thought, well, you know, it's great, it's a form of flattery that they've copied it, but that's where I think, okay, well, what can I do next then? How can I change things up? And I've just I did a video for a property where it's been owned by the same family since 1945. So the opening of the video is my client. I tried to get them on camera. They wouldn't do it. I was like, please go on camera. I wanted to get them in like a Netflix style doc. I was like, please, will you go on camera? She was like, I won't do it. I won't do it, Alex. I was like, please just record. So basically she ended up just recording a little bit of audio. But what we did is we opened it with her talking about what it's been like to live in the house. And she had loads of old photos of the family back in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, you know, outside the house, weddings. And we just filmed a load of the photos, and my videographer put it together. And the opening of the video is all these photos and her talking about what it's been like to be in the house for 30 years for them, but how it's been in the family for 45 years. And again, the amount of people that messaged me saying, oh my God, that video made me cry. You know, literally, that was such an amazing video. And that's the thing. I think that it's always just trying to think, okay, how can we do things a little bit differently? You know, what can we try to, just to push, and just trying things, you know, push it. And I constantly have to push myself out my comfort zone. I've openly said before, I always feel like I have a bit of imposter syndrome, that I always kind of, I don't feel like I deserve to be where I am and I'm as good as I am, and then you get people saying, but yeah, but your video's amazing. I'm like, yeah, but they could always be better. I don't think they're best, or I don't like the way I look and I sound. And people are still so shocked now by the way they say that, you know, you're so good on video. I'm like, yeah, but I still feel uncomfortable doing it. But it's doing the things, it's getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And every time that record is pushed, you know, I still get my lines messed up, and I still, you know, struggle sometimes to think of what can I say. And but actually, you know, at the end of the day, if you've got someone good to edit at the other end of it, they can make something out of all the mess. But you know, that's what it comes down to, is that you've just got to be willing to put yourself and just, like I said, do those things. And sometimes it's not about, you know, you don't need to be the best at something, you just need to be consistent, which brings it back round to the original point, is that, you know, I think just doing the video. So that's the thing, I'm always just making sure that every property needs a video. It has to have that, because that's what people expect. And when I go and see people and you ask them, what was the reason that you've decided to invite me out over some of the other agents, and they, most of the time they say, we love your marketing, we love your videos, and so I think, well, look, that's why they're going to choose me over somebody else, is because I'm still offering something that's better than everybody else.
It's the online shop window, and I think the imposter syndrome or the perfectionism is a very common trait in high performers. It's something that you would look at and go, oh, I could have done that better. Or you hit a milestone, and a fantastic milestone. For someone like yourself, you'll be looking at the first £1 million banked since starting business or something like that. You take that as a milestone, total banked business, and often with a high performer, they kind of go, oh, that's really cool, and the journey of getting to it is so ambitious and so exciting, and then you do it and you go, right, what's next? And it's like you kind of don't even celebrate the moment, because that's the mindset of a high performer quite often. So it's nice to see that. And I think what you said about having a videographer to kind of put it all together, that's the other value. You mentioned about the VA and giving you time, but having expertise in other areas that you can lean on and recruit, that's how you keep growing your business. Will be a point at some point, most likely, where the VA or the videographer doesn't keep up with the speed of what you want the business to go, and you'll switch them for someone better that costs more money, or they'll grow with you and they'll continue to gain their own momentum. And I think that's something that a lot of self-employed agents out there should definitely embrace, because they try and do too much themselves and don't spend the money, because it is an investment. It isn't a cost. It is an investment in time and quality, and it will pay literally the dividends.
Oh, 100%. And going back to, funny enough, again, something else that Leo Bahira mentioned when we were in that mastermind was, he said, so you've got two options. When you're getting busy, you've got two options. You either increase the size of your team, or you increase your fees. To get into the point where you're in so much demand, there's two avenues you can go, because you can't stay in the middle where you are. You either need to grow a team, and like I said, that is where you might start getting negotiators, or you put your fees up. And yes, that might mean that you might miss out on a few other sales, but if you can put your fees up to a point where actually you're absorbing the cost of those lost sales, and it still allows you to maintain that one-to-one service, because it still blows my mind when I hear that, like you said, there's agents that are editing their own videos all the time. I mean, I still do my own content, but when there's agents out there who are editing quite professional videos, I think fair play to them, but I don't want to be up at 1 o'clock in the morning trying to edit a video clip to send to the client the next day. And often I look at my videographer, Cole, and I'm like, he's sending me clips at 2 in the morning. And I'm like, that's not for me. And I think that's what he's good at. And that's where I say to people, look, and I got a different photographer and different videographer. I know there are some out there that do both, but I kind of knew how I wanted the photos to look, and I knew how I wanted the videos to look, and they're two different, they're two very different skill sets. But it, again, it means that the turnaround is quick as well. So within a week we're on the market, which I know that probably doesn't sound very quick to some, but for me, it's about that kind of building that bit of momentum, and I think just showing a bit of care that if you're turning around photos and videos within 2 hours, and it's like, right, we got the listing ready to go to market. For me, I think you still, even if you had the photos and videos back within 2 to 3 days, there's no harm in dragging it out a little bit, because you want the clients to feel it's something we're producing. We're working in the background, we're building something up, and then you drip feeding it to the market. So whether that's little coming soon snippets, or a little photo here, or a little behind the scenes video there, it's building that momentum, it's building that curiosity. So I think it's good to have great marketing, but you've got to be able to use it in a way that creates curiosity. But going back to your point of having someone to do it for you, I think I couldn't imagine myself. I think I'd waste a lot of time, because I'm no good at editing videos. Like you said, the way I look at it, I'm not, compared to Cole, I can't even, I don't even get started. I haven't got the right laptop. I mean, I've tried to edit stuff on my laptop, I just haven't got the right gear. And I think that's the thing. It's sometimes you've got to make that decision, especially as a self-employed business owner. Sometimes you've got to make those decisions. Is there someone that could be doing the job better than me that will actually save me money and time? Because actually, yes, I've got to pay, whether it's you're paying a VA or whether you're paying a videographer just for one edit, if they can do it better than you and you can buy back your time and refocus your energy somewhere else that's going to make you more money, then yeah, because the way I look at it, if I was up until 2 o'clock every night editing videos, I'm going to be tired the next day. Sorry.
Yeah, you have to. You have to, don't you?
I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be absolutely knackered the next day. So if I've got to go to a valuation in the morning, to an appraisal, I don't want to be turning up feeling like I've had no sleep and I look like crap and, I just don't feel I got the right energy. I want to be making sure that I'm waking up rejuvenated. I've started my day well and I'm going to go in there and win the business, not thinking, or again, distractions your mind, thinking, oh God, I've got to edit that video. Oh, now the client's chasing me for photos and, oh, I haven't got round to doing that yet. That's the worst feeling when you suddenly feel that everybody's asking, you're dropping the ball like left, right and center. And I've been there so that's where I had to figure out I can't just carry on the way I am because I just keep dropping the ball. And, over time, I've kind of felt that, that's probably lost me business. So now I'm in a different mind frame where, by having a bit of help in places, but still, I'm still trying to keep it very much that I am the agent. I'm the one that's going to turn up to the majority of the viewings. I am the one that you're going to speak to. I'm the one that will deal with the offers. I am the one that's going to look after this sale because I think that's what people buy into. And that's why, I've just put my fees up to 2%, including VAT, which I know is still not the highest by a long shot, but most of the agents in my town at 1%. Tops. Some of them have actually put their fees down over the last few years, but I've actually put mine up. And I think, but for me, I've worked out the numbers and thought that's a number that allows me to do everything I need to do and have a bit of help by putting my fee up by that little bit compared to what it was before. And the surprising thing is most people have been willing to pay it. And now I'm thinking, oh, why didn't I do that sooner? Because I haven't really had many pushbacks. I've had the odd one, but you don't
mind the odd one though, do you, Alex? In that moment,
no.
We've spoke about it, me and Mark as well, and you don't mind the pushback because it's not a volume game. It's about profit. It's about quality, and I think that's a great kind of summary of what we're talking about here. Is if you get all of these little margins, you do these things right. It does take a bit of sacrifice. It does take a bit of discipline, but it's normally the right move because it should be a little bit tough, to make those decisions. It should be a bit scary. And I think what you've done there is you've built the team around you that kind of allows you to do what you do best. And you've got busier off the back of it. And I think Daniel Priestley says, if you're oversubscribed, the more leads you've got, everything else, is downstream. It's all easy flow from there. But you have to make the right decisions along the flow, and doing that is great to hear. In terms of a sort of final piece of advice for people out there, how do you see the market not the market, but how do you see a estate agency, over the next kind of 18 months? Because we've been fortunate enough in the recent years that we've seen it shift quite a lot since lockdown, and then we've had some ups and downs. We've had a catastrophic budget that really caused all sorts of dramas. Then we've had, stamp duty holidays in there. We've had interest rates come back down. Now they've gone back up. So from an estate agency point of view, it's not going to be normal. It's not going to be consistent. It's going to be anything but the market. So what do you see sort of unfolding over the next sort of 18 months, 2 years for estate agents?
Well, I think that something, again, that I picked up while we were in Miami last year. And by the way, I always say people go to conferences and things. Honestly, the magic moments that happen at conferences and just people you meet. I mean, this was a particularly special one, but it is relevant to your question. Is that we got invited to a guy called Brent Gove's penthouse, which he'd hired. I mean, this guy in America's, he's built an organization of agents. He's got like some ridiculous, like 14,000 agents that he's kind of helped and mentored and one thing and the other. But, so to get invited into this kind of, this very, closed off little, like private mastermind in his penthouse. And he was sat there and he was talking about, the real estate roller coaster. And he just said, look, guys, you just got to accept there's going to be good times. There's going to be bad times. And it does, it does this. And he said, you just got to learn that, it's always going to do that. You just got to accept that is the real estate market. There's going to be time where rates are higher, where prices are lower, where stock is low, stock is high. But you've just got to be able to adapt. And again, that was one of those things that sticks with you. And I just thought, yeah, because we can all moan about, the market, the market's down, rates are up, there's a war going on, no one wants to buy. But it's learning that you've got to let go of the things that you can't control, but there are things you can control. And he said control, it's controlling the process, control things that you can control. So you can control how you show up to an appointment every day. You can control the conversations you're having with people. You can control the advice that you give people. You can control how you decide that you're going to run your business compared to how other people are going to run it. And it's kind of, if you focus on the controllables, then actually the other things around it kind of fall away. And yes, there's always going to be challenges that you've got to face. But I actually did a post on this, and I did a bit of a session with some of the agents that because we've got like a group of agents with me and Adam Mackay. We kind of look after a group of agents through some real agency, and we do like weekly calls. And of course, a lot of the agents on those calls were worried about, well, what's happening in the market right now. And I said, well, look, so I actually worked out from 2000 to now, every political war, COVID, everything that had happened since 2000. And I think that when you looked at all that list, I said, if you were someone in 2000 and you told them over the next 25 years, this is everything that's going to happen, every scandal, every war, everything, would you buy a house knowing that all these things are going to happen? And probably most buyers would say, not a chance. Why would I even think about buying a house if all that's going to happen? Sounds like the worst 25 years anyone could ever have. But then when you actually looked at it and said, well, look, during that same time, the average house price has probably gone up by almost 200%. It just reframes it. Do you think that even with all of that that's gone on, the house prices have still increased? And then I haven't worked out the numbers, but if you worked out probably the amount of people that made a decision to move over that 25 years and noted every single transaction, it's probably out there, I could probably find it, but you get the actual transaction numbers. Imagine how many, we're talking, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, transactions have probably happened over those 25 years in the UK. So I think it's just remembering that people will always move house. There's always going to be people who are getting married, having new babies, new jobs, sad situations where they've lost loved ones, or they've, unfortunately getting divorced or debt. There's always going to be opportunities for us to do our job. I think it's just making sure that when you do get the opportunities to get through the door, that you're giving the right advice to make sure those clients get sold, because any house will sell in any market. I think if you put a house, even if it was the worst market we've seen in 100 years, but if you put a house on the market for £1, I bet someone would buy it. There'd be someone out there that say, I'll take that for £1. So again, it's just making sure that the price is right and the marketing's right. And I think if anything, now with the market tougher, this is where the cream rises to the top. This is where the good agents who are investing in marketing, the agents that are doing the things that others are afraid to do, they're the ones that are going to be asked out, because suddenly it's not easy to sell a house anymore. That during COVID, everyone was thinking, it's really easy to sell a house. Now it's not so easy. Sellers are thinking, well, my house has been on the market for 6 months. My agent told me I was going to sell in 6 days, not 6 months. So now they're looking for people who can actually give them results. So I think for, you've built a phenomenal group of agents, and, there's agents that we work with within Real Agency and EXP that are just phenomenal agents. And they're the ones that have still got, some of them have got 250 grand pipelines, and you just think like that just goes to show that they're great at what they do, and they just, when people trust them, and and again, they're the ones that are being consistent. So long-winded answer to your question, but that's how I see kind of things going, is that the consistent agents are the ones who are doing the work and not afraid to do what others are afraid to do. They'll be the ones that will win over the next kind of five years.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I think in summary of the whole podcast, the word is consistent, but there's a lot of other phrases and sentences that we've said in there that I think people will take some good takeaways from. And I always agree with you. I think good people are better busy. And I think when the market does get, I don't think it's tough. I think it's just harder than it was 3 months ago.
It's just different. It's different. And it'll be different tomorrow.
There'll still be over 1.1 million sales this year in the UK. The average over the last 25 years has been 1.2. It'll probably be around 1.2, and it'll be the same next year. So you're either in the market doing the business, or someone else's, but it's getting done. That's the fact of it. So you have to remember that when you feel you're having a bad day, you just got to remember someone else is having a good day. So just shift it. And we had a marine on recently, didn't we, Mark, that said, turn a C day into a B day by lunchtime, turn a B day into an A day by lunchtime. So, you know, if you're having a bad morning, just go up a level in the afternoon and don't have a bad day effectively. So,
Well, I think that's the key. And I think that, and I think reaching out to your community, and I think, you know, we're all in the same boat as agents. And you know, I built my business by just looking at people that are doing well and just picking the phone up to them, or again, if I was at a conference, just calling them, you know. So just reach out to people, just ask, how are you doing so well at the moment, you know, with everything that's going on. And I find most people are very willing to give their advice. So yeah, just and listen to podcasts. You know, I'm always listening to podcasts and just always trying to be that 1% better. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, love that. Appreciate you coming on, Alex. Thanks very much.
No, thank you for having me.
A massive thank you to Alex Pelosi-Buchanan for joining us today. I think I've got the name right. We listened to the voice note in between the intro and the outro, and
helped you out a little there, didn't I?
yeah, you definitely helped me out because I was nervous about that. But a real passionate, high performing agent who was the thing that sort of grabbed me, and particularly in the early stages of the conversation, was how self-aware he is. So, you know, been, you know, high performing, won awards within obviously a massive group there, and he was still saying that, you know, I'm not as good as I want to be, and I want to get better every day. And I think that's the secret sauce, right?
Yeah, I've had a love-hate relationship with a state agency for probably the last decade, but Alex and his mindset around things, that's the reason why I want to stay connected to it. I want to stay in it, because those are the type of people that do right by the client, put the client first. They're humble. They're confident in what they're doing, but they're humble with it. They're authentic. They know who they want to be. And they don't know all the answers, but they're asking people for the answers. They're asking people around them for the answers. They're not burying their head in the sand. They're not being led by their own opinion. They're being led by success that leads clues and the data out there. And they, at the same time, they want to help other people along the way as well. You know, they want to learn from people above them, and then they want to teach people that need support below them. And that type of personality in a state agency, they are out there. There's not as many of them as I would wish that and hope there will be in the future, but I think there's more and more of those types of people that are pushing their personal brand up in the industry and making an influence, and that's great to see, you know.
Yeah,
and that's the story.
Absolutely. You know, he's listened to the podcast. He mentioned off air that he's bought the book as well, and really interestingly, he said, I just gave that to you. He mentioned on the podcast, George, his guy who's coming in and wants to join the agency, gave him the book and said, right, go and, you know, read that, go and learn about it, go and listen to all these episodes, which is great to hear, because that's exactly what it is all about. But it just goes to show that he's investing time in improving himself and the people that he wants to bring into his business. He expects the same of those. And I think that's the, you know, the real secret to getting better in this industry is not just to stand still, not just to stand there and be arrogant and say, I know everything and this is how it works, but actually say, right, what's good today isn't necessarily good tomorrow, but I need to push that. You know, he talked about the Netflix documentary style videos, and he is very good. He's got a natural talent on video, but he's always looking to push the envelope, just get better bit by bit. And you know, that's one of my key takeaways from it. And I've not met Alex before today. It was the first time that we'd spoken, but that would be my key takeaway from his business, is that he's very self-aware. He has a good mindset, and a massive part of that is just getting better each and every day.
Yeah, I think that learning, stepping away from the business, as much as it caused chaos when he went to Miami. And I think he said he had his mum help him back, and he'd built this animal that just wasn't able to be controlled while he was away. Just doing that in an early part of a business's life as an owner gets you to see the issues before they become day-to-day issues, and it allowed him to step away, look at things. And I think that's something that as estate agents with our career, if we're employed, or as estate agents that are running a business or in a brokerage or self-employed or whatever phase, just stepping away sometimes. You know, you mentioned to me at the start about going for a break, having a long weekend, you know, where you need it, a little bit of your own time and a little bit of time with people you care about and you love, but stepping away and just reflecting on a few things. You know, how can I make my career better? What are the key questions I need to ask my manager? What do I need to learn more about? And as an owner, what can I do a little bit differently? What are the things he mentioned about the green, amber, red, very much an action coach method from that mastermind, actually, about working out your pound per hour annual amount. And that's a really good exercise for estate agents to do, just to really work out where they are. And if what you actually do with that process is you look at all the reds and you go, right, if my pound per hour is £120 an hour or £80 an hour, and I'm an owner, who can I pay £25 an hour to do the reds that I'm doing? Because instantly I'm in profit with my time and my energy.
And that, by the sounds of things, is something that the self-employed agents take a little while to understand, because obviously this was a conversation about that, and you mentioned it a couple of times there. So that's the advice. Go and do, because that's a really good process to go through and actually understand that you mentioned it. It's not a cost, it's an investment in your time. Whether you're a self-employed agent or a business owner or a manager who might be stuck doing those admin jobs, who even has people to give them to, make sure that you do that process and actually be more productive with your time, because in this market where it is going to be tougher, you need to be doing those green jobs and the high performing jobs, because you can do them well, that will earn the business more money ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. No, really good episode, really enjoyed it. We've got some great guests coming on, and I was talking to Austin actually yesterday about how we're going to do it. I think we've almost got a balance at the moment where we're kind of going someone who's not an estate agent, then we've got 2 estate agents, then someone who's not. So we've got a really nice balance. I recorded last week a really good episode with Coach Dimitri, who's nutrition coach, performance coach, totally different pivot, but so much value. He actually started his career in a estate agency at 18, so he's got reference to the industry. But yeah, he's helped me a lot from a performance point of view and from a nutritional point of view. So some great hacks on that episode. We've got couple more people that I think Aaron Kirk will have been out for people to listen to as well.
Troy Malcolm coming up soon as well.
Troy Malcolm coming on. Kirsty Franks potentially that episode will have dropped at this point as well. So yeah, do check out, because this year we've just been back to back with quality guests, haven't we? So if you've missed a couple, go back, because everything's evergreen. And there's some really good ones to go and download if you haven't listened to them all this year so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So massive thank you once again to Alex for joining us. As you know, we do this because we love our industry. We want to see it improve and get better. If you have enjoyed today's episode, put share it out on social, share it with any colleagues that you work alongside. And thank you very much for listening. We will see you again next week.